Welcome back. I'm Ethan and this is Jack, and you're watching The Human Show, where we explore the nature of life and what it means to be human. We've got a lot of good mail from our fans today, so let's take a look. Today we'll be responding to Winston from Oceania. Winston asks, is there a reality existing independently of our perception, or is reality subjective, existing only in our perception of it? And if some people see the same reality different than others, how can we know which reality is real? Wow, Winston, that's a doozy. To try and understand what Winston's asking, let's break it up. Winston's question deals primarily with two heavily debated branches of metaphysics, ontology and epistemology. Ontology, the study of the nature of being, is a branch of philosophy dedicated to tackling our first question: is reality even real?
Of course it is. I'm right in front of you. You can see me with your own two eyes. Is that objective enough?
Well, if you try and prove that statement, you might run into some issues. This is where epistemology comes into play. Our second branch of philosophy asks the question, how do we know that we know something? And assuming we know it, how do we know that what we know is true?
I'm sorry, I don't speak Spanish.
Okay, in other words, epistemology is the study of truth. How we can satisfy ourselves that a concept is true or even knowable. The concept we're wondering about is whether objective reality exists. So how could we be sure that there's even an answer to that question? Well, that's where it gets strange. The fact is that in the entirety of human existence, no one has ever been able to empirically, physically prove that we exist. In fact, they haven't been able to prove anything at all. Don't believe me? That's okay, let's ask an expert. Jack Fraser, Master of Physics from Oxford University, explains the concept in an interview with Forbes magazine. He says, proof implies that there's no room for error, that you can be 100% sure that when you have written down on the piece of paper is 100% representative of what you're talking about. And, he says, quite simply, that does not exist in the real world.
Okay, but even if my body might not exist, I'm still conscious. That's got to count for something, right?
Well, Jack, you're getting warmer, but still no. René Descartes had the same idea back in 1637 when he wrote the famous line, "I think, therefore I am," in his book Discourse on the Method. While he had touched on something important, Descartes' claim was eventually proven false. Descartes assumes in his first statement that he, or I, exists. And so it follows that simply saying, "therefore I am," afterwards is really just a restatement of his original assumption, and nothing is actually proven. But Descartes wasn't the only one to take a stab at understanding reality. Plato, a famous Greek philosopher, believed that an objective reality did exist, but that it was defined by pure essence of the physical world rather than the physical world itself. He called this essence eidos, which translates to the English word idea or form. Plato's theory of forms essentially states that each physical object or set of physical objects has its own form. For example, there are many different kinds of trees, but the form tree is the essence of what it is to be a tree. Likewise, there are lots of things that one might call beautiful, but the form beauty contains the concept of beauty, or the essence of what it is to be beautiful.
That sounds interesting, but I'm not sure I buy it.
Yeah, and that's the issue with a lot of these theories. They're difficult to test, and therefore they aren't usually 100% successful. History is filled with a long list of philosophers who have tried and failed to pin down the nature of existence, and who can blame them? It's a tricky subject, and even though some have devoted their lifetime to figuring it out, no one can really claim total success.
Damn. So you're saying we could all be living in the Matrix, but we have no way of proving it?
I'm saying that we could all not exist, and we have no way to prove it.
Damn. This is whack. I'm gonna go get lunch.
Sounds good to me. Thanks for joining us.
So, are we really in the Matrix?